name is Ann Sermons Gillis, and today I'm excited to do a Theosophical Order of Service Legacy project interview with one of the people who has a distinction of being a former First Gentleman. We all know him as a part of the dynamic duo of Betty and you know who. So I'm very happy to introduce today David Bland. Welcome, David.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to this.
Oh,
When I
that's
was at the TS, I became known as Mr. Betty.
Mr. Betty. Yeah, I think of Mr. Betty Bland. Well, we want to know about you. A lot of times when we meet people, we don't know their story. So we want to find out your story from the very beginning. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Pittsburgh, North Carolina. Uh, I'm 88 years old. Um, and I was born in my great granddaddy's plantation home. Um, we still had descendants of granddaddy's um, enslaved people. And in fact, I had an African American lady who was my mammy, and she was as much my mother as my biological mother was. She loved me I mean, there was nothing that I could do that was wrong. So Oni was a very important part of my early life. And um, I think that she was very instrumental in helping me understand what it meant to be uh, a brother, sister to all others.
That's wonderful. And her name was Oni.
Yep.
Oni, I like that. Well, so it's been a long time since you were born. So where do you live now?
Live in Raleigh, North Carolina. We, after Betty retired from the presidency, we decided we would move back to North Carolina, uh, was my home, and we live in Raleigh. When we came back, that was in 2011. Um, I was still um, young and spry, quote unquote, and became deeply involved in the political scene here in North Carolina and ended up being the state treasurer of the Democratic Party, the vice chair of our regional Democratic Party, and have been involved in quite a few campaigns since we came back.
All right. So it looks like that was the right place for you to be.
Yep, it was.
Were you raised in a religion?
Yeah, my parents were both religious. We belonged to the Baptist church, and I have very fond memories of that institution. Uh, I sang in a quartet many years ago, so it was a very influential part of my life. But when I felt called to the ministry. Uh, I guess when I was 16 or 17, and went, I guess I was 19 by then. I don't know. But at any rate, went to Wake Forest University and started learning uh, a different take on religion and the belief structures, all of which were very eclectic and very inclusive, but certainly challenged what I had been taught in a country church. I sat down with the minister of the First Presbyterian Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, where my mother and father lived. And uh, out of that meeting, I came to understand that I had then and have now a responsibility to look at um, the research and the theological interpretations and with an open mind and not prejudge it. And that totally changed the way I approached faith. And in fact, I think that it certainly complements the experience that I've had in theosophy since the early 70s.
So you veered away from your religion of origin. How did that set with your parents? Were they okay with that, or did y'all never discuss that, or how did
Oh
that
yeah,
go?
not a problem. They were very understanding of my growth and my um, intellectual development as far as various faith traditions were concerned. And uh, Mom and I, after Daddy died, my mother and I did have discussions about theosophy and how it related to Christianity and my early faith upbringing. So it was a very welcoming and very formative. That's a good term. Formative foundation.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question I don't usually ask people, but I love this story, and that is with Betty. Tell us the story about meeting Betty and what you said once you met her. Do you mind telling that story?
No, not at all. I'm proud of it. Well, I was a freshman at North Carolina State University. That was before I went to Wake Forest. And her cousin and I were in the fraternity together. And as good freshmen, we played cards every afternoon. And he was from Richmond, Virginia. And one afternoon, I saw her picture in his wallet and knew that I was going to go to Richmond with him for a weekend. And back then, I was dating everything in skirts. And so I knew that I had to have a date if I was going to go to Richmond. So I wrote her a letter so full of it you just wouldn't believe. And just because I was a friend of her cousin's, she at least graced me with responding to the letter. And it came time for us to go to Richmond. And that back then was the old timey plug in telephones. And I kept plugging quarters in this telephone until I finally convinced her to stop dating, going steady with this twerp and date me that weekend. Well, she did. And I was sitting on the couch in her home, and her mother brought her in and presented her and all of that stuff. And after, many months later, Mom said she saw sparks fly as soon as Betty walked in. Well, I told her cousin as he and I were driving back to Raleigh that that was the girl I was going to marry. And in 4.5 years later, I had given her enough rope to finally hang her. So we got married.
So that was 2 days after you actually met that you
Yeah,
said you were going to
it was
marry her.
I we had a we had a date on Saturday night and we went back on I guess we went to church Sunday morning. And then that night, we Jay and I were driving back, and that's when I told him there was never a question.
So in Theosophy, we believe in reincarnation. Do you think maybe you had been with her before and you recognized her, or do you think it was just another kind of attraction?
Heavens no, there's no question that our paths have crossed.
Many times,
Pardon?
many times in past lives, you mean?
I would say we fit together like a hand in glove.
I love that. Well, I love being around y'all. You do complement each other very well. Now, I'm going to assume that you found Theosophy through Betty. Is that correct?
That's for sure. Uh, we moved, I was assistant director of community colleges in the state of Michigan, and we moved to Michigan. And the very fall that we moved to Michigan, or summer, late summer, Betty pawned the children off on her cousin, and she went to Alcott for the first summer school. You know, I don't believe she took the children, I think. At any rate, I know that that's when they were still meeting in tents out on the campus, and she sat outside the tent with the kid, our daughter and son, on a blanket, and that was where she truly um, got joined at the hip with Theosophy. And as she became involved in it, I decided that uh, I needed to have that experience as well. So we both joined in 1970 as life members.
So does that mean that you were open from the very beginning
Oh,
to
yeah.
you know,
There was, uh, there's an interesting story about that. I, uh, getting my degrees in theology, I was very enamored and captured by the concept of the cosmic Christ. And it wasn't until I got involved in theosophy and started reading and hearing the lectures and all that the principle of the cosmic Christ truly became a reality for me. Um, because, in my opinion, and I'm no expert in theosophy at all, but in my opinion, that is certainly one of the things that the masters was trying to get across when they talked about what the responsibility of the organization had to be.
well, now I know at one point for a while you were a Baptist minister. Was that before this event of finding Theosophy, or did you find it
No,
before?
no. That was I I pastored three different churches starting in 1963. No, 1960. Um, yeah, 1960. Um, I had pastored three different churches uh, before I became the dean of education at a community college in Durham, North Carolina.
So when you were saying, I'm not clear, was this before the
No,
Theosophical?
way before, way
Way
before.
before. Okay, great. So one of the cornerstones of Theosophy is service, and that's what we're about here doing this legacy interview, the Theosophical Order of Service. And I know that you do a lot of service yourself, whether it's through your social justice action, you're staying informed. And I just wonder, what do you think about service as it applies to Theosophy?
Well, you have hit a hot button there for me because I have always been enamored with the efforts that um,
Annie Besant?
Annie Besant uh, took the direction she took Theosophy early on that finally became the Theosophical Order of Service. Um, I feel that Besant got labeled being too political, and um, they, set the TOS up as a separate entity because I guess partially because of that. Um, I feel that um, the society through the TOS does some incredibly wonderful things the uh, focus on peace, the focus on healing, uh, some of the local things that it focuses on, like the animal welfare and that kind of stuff. I think all of those are very important, but um, I do feel that we need to really rethink what our responsibilities are relative to the injustices that are foisted upon uh, people around the world, be it hunger, uh, be it slavery, uh, be it human rights, be it um, all of the uh, evil things that happen to young kids, and the what do you call it, the uh, when for um, goodness, I blanked on this, trafficking.
Yeah.
Um,
Human trafficking, the
right.
slavery.
I I I really, we steer away from that because we have been so convinced that if we talk about any of these governmental things or these international things, it's too political. The bottom line is every one of those issues are moral issues, and every faith tradition that I am aware of has the guiding principle of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And I think that that is one of the foundations. I mean, if you look at the three objects, the first object has to drive you, in my opinion. It drives me, I should say. It drives me to recognize that that principle that is uh, acclaimed by all faith traditions is equally responsibility of the Theosophical Society. And I think that the day will come that we're going to be forced to look at what our moral responsibilities are as a society, not a political responsibility, but a moral responsibility to call people's attention and responsibility to address uh, these social injustices. Now, I do not see the society becoming a major funder of this or that or the other thing, but I do think that we have a responsibility as a society to address those matters to our membership. And one of the things that I think, I mean, our membership has basically plateaued at around 3,200 to 3,300. And if you look at our membership, we're a bunch of old heads, a lot of gray hairs, like mine, and yours, by the way. And if we want to give young people a an invitation that's attractive, I think that if we drew a correlation around the issue of morality, I think that would be a winner. I mean, just one thing, you look at what Vic Hao Chien does in the Philippines. I mean, that educational program that he fosters down there is shot through with what it means to do unto others. Why is it that we can't talk about that in the United States? Now, I'll get
Well,
off the box there.
okay, well, I would just say that, of course, Olcott did that as well. He founded a lot of schools, and I think he saw the importance of education. But even at that point, Blavatsky was wanting to teach more of the occult things, and he was wanting to go more toward those social justice issues like education.
Right.
However, I will say that unfortunately, while I certainly believe it is a moral issue, it seems that we have turned moral issues into political issues. That we've got, people on one side of the issue and people on the other side of the issue, and they vote more tribally than they do with their heart or their understanding or their vision. I mean,
Well,
when I
I
say
can't.
vote, when I say vote, I mean they support the
Good.
ideas.
Understood.
Yeah,
No, I can't disagree with you on that, other than um, I think it's awfully easy. It has become awfully easy for us to um, find easy um, rationalizations for why, for the justification of doing away with SNAP, as an example, or justifications for eliminating health care for 600 million people. Now, I can say, well, that's a political issue because look how much money it costs, et cetera, et cetera. But I can't do that if I sit down and look at a kid, which I have recently done, that didn't have shoes. Not because their parents were drinking alcohol and all the other stuff that uh, some of the politicians want to characterize them by. They just did not have any money. So I'll get off of that. Um, I will not move off of that soapbox.
I hear you. We just met at your house recently, and Barbara Bolger told the story about one of her students that was frequently absent. And when she asked the student, why did she not come to school every day? The student says, I can only come on the day that I can wear the shoes, because there was only one pair of shoes and they passed it around to the children. And so uh, we are in a different kind of society than we've ever been. And I think you make some really good points. And I don't know if the younger generation is going to take on these social justice issues in another way. We'll just have to see. And we just hope that we will have some younger members.
I do too.
uh, well, have you ever participated in any TOS projects that you can think of?
I I know at Alcott we did some things with the animals. Um, I was very active. I was president of the Chamber of Commerce there in Wheaton for a couple of years, and we did through representing the TS. Uh, we did some active social justice kinds of issues. Uh, we worked directly with the local zoo to help take care of the animals and all that kind of stuff. So yes, in that respect, I did.
And so I'm wondering, when you did this service work, do you feel like you got a lot out of doing the service work, or do you feel like it was just about giving?
No, I to me it did two things. One, it certainly was something that I wanted to do and felt uh, worthy of doing, of being done rather. But the other thing was that I always wore my TS hat, and everybody there knew that Bland was Mr. Betty, and that I was very active in the TS and all. And so I felt like I was accomplishing two things at one time, doing something good, but also letting people know that the TS is around and it ain't going anywhere.
All right. That's great. Well, have there been any particular aspects of theosophy or of the theosophical philosophy that you think have been guiding points for your life?
Um, one, um, its openness. And I know people say that, well, uh, when they're ready, they'll come. That might be true. I don't know. But I do know that people uh, come to Theosophy because they have found an openness and a non-judgmental uh, foundation for their living. The second thing I think is that all three objects are spot on, but um, I believe that we are on the cusp of finally recognizing that there is a universality of humanity that we must all recognize and help maintain. Those are the two things.
All right. Thank you. What role have you played in any lodge meetings? Like if you're in study center lodge meetings, what role do you think you've played in that? And have they influenced your life being able to go to these meetings in person on a regular basis?
Oh, I enjoy the meetings. Um, and uh, one of our members here, Jane Fleener, uh, says that I'm the devil in her right ear. And um, the reason she says that is that in every one of our meetings, and I think this is great, in every one of our meetings, we are able to intellectually look at issues, and I feel totally comfortable asking the hard questions. And that is rewarding.
So in her mind, when she's
She's
pondering something,
challenged.
she it was kind of like, what would David do, huh?
Well, not so much what I do,
What
how
would you?
would I respond to him?
Right, right, right. Okay. Oh, that's great. HPB says that theosophy is altruism. Would you agree with that? And if so, why?
I definitely agree that when HPB and Alcott conceived of theosophy under the um, watchful eye of the masters, it was absolutely um, could absolutely be characterized as altruistic. I fear that we are, I don't mean this ugly at all, but I don't feel that we are as focused on altruism now as we used to be. I don't know. I don't know the cause of that, but it's just a feeling that I have.
I'm going to turn that around a little bit, David, and that is, I think that Olcott and Blavatsky's life was altruistic because they gave their life to theosophy. And I do believe that we have a lot of people here, like your wife, so many people, Ed Abdul, John Algeo, Pablo Sender, so many people whose lives are dedicated to theosophy and living the principles of theosophy. And I'm going to call that altruism. Altruism is when you're working for the good of all through your own
Right.
individual life.
I certainly, absolutely would agree with everything you just said. The only reason I made the statement I did, um, and I might be might be wrong, but I just have the impression that during the early days of Theosophy, um, there were certainly differences and splinters that happened and all that kind of stuff. But there was, my feeling was, or my impression was, that's better. My impression was, or is, that there was a, a broader organization, that's it, a broader organizational focus on altruism or what we would call altruism than I see today. And I personally think that um, that part of that is attributable to Besant.
Yes, and I do want to mention that throughout this time from 1875 and on is that we live in a different culture. We moved from the idea that if we did good things for people, we had more of a do-good consciousness. And I'm
I agree
thinking,
with that.
and as we have developed psychologically and emotionally, we had to withdraw from kind of this philanthropic trying to fix and help people into helping ourselves. And it could be that we're a little bit stuck in this narcissistic phase and we haven't, we're just growing out of it. But it's not just the individuals, it's the movement of consciousness and how it evolved. It was we were altruistic sometimes for not the right reasons. And then we withdrew and it said, oh, we got to take care of ourselves. And it's like, oh, we can't stay stuck taking care of ourselves and our own personal interests. We need to move beyond that. So it
Mhm.
may be well what you say that there has been a change. And it also may have to do with the movement of consciousness through the culture, the
Right,
development of consciousness. And of course, that was what Blavatsky was about. She really wanted to
right.
talk about the development of consciousness from the beginning and how it continues through the eons.
Well, I will say, that's well said. I will say that I do believe, and I guess this is just my, I hope, but I do believe that we are on the cusp of becoming more aware and having a sense of responsibility that's related to altruism.
So
I mean,
did
I
you
just got off of a 1.5 hour Zoom call just before I got on with you, uh, a group statewide that are um, instead of addressing things from a political perspective, they are going to between now and March um, bring up to our local governing boards, our commissioners across the state, uh, the uh, growing needs that we have in education, childcare, and hunger. So I
well
think
God
we're I think we're moving, hopefully we're moving positively.
God bless the visionaries.
Right.
Yeah, and their ability to follow up on their beliefs. Have you, I know you've been to some of the conventions. What do you think going to the national conventions? How do you think that serves a theosophist?
Well, I think the conventions are fantastic. I really do. Um, I I think that um, John and the people that are focused on the programs, I think they really do a good job of bringing substantive programs to the table. Uh, I find them all very informative, interesting, and you know worthy of people's time to listen. So I think they're great.
Do you think they're transformative?
I do. I'll tell you one thing that I think that the powers that be ought to reinstitute. When Ed Abdul was there, I'm sure you remember him being the Swami.
Yes.
Uh, we need to have some fun time.
Amen. I'm
So,
with you on that. I think most members are there. And so maybe we need to have a little social justice in
right,
our in theosophy, meaning socializing,
right,
you
right.
know, socializing. Yes. Do you have, do you try to relate theosophical principles to other people in your lives in terms of just talking with them philosophically, or do you just live them? Do you talk about the ideas, or you just try to live the ideas in your life?
Well, when we lived in Alabama, I we've been members of the Episcopal Church since the late 80s. And when I was in Alabama, I taught a Sunday school class. Here in North Carolina, I taught a Sunday school class. And in those Sunday school classes, I definitely bring up theosophical principles. We've talked about, in every instance, we've talked about reincarnation. We've talked about the objects and why they're important. We've talked about the fact that the TS is an interfaith organization and uh, the importance of that. So definitely, everybody knows where I stand on all that stuff.
And so when you were doing that, you were using the words theosophy too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of people hide their affiliation because they're concerned about the feedback from very more conservative belief systems.
Right.
But you're out there in front, right? Do you have any particular books by theosophical authors that meant anything, something special to you?
Uh, I guess I would list three. The Foot of the Master, Ed Abdul's book, what was it, Secret Garden? Or, I forgot what it was, but his book on theosophy. I think it's that is a book that everybody ought to read because it is so down to earth and so uh, it positions theosophy as a very practical, purposeful um, thought form. So that, and of course I'm very prejudiced on this one, but I think everybody ought to read Betty's book, Begin Where You Are. That
Okay.
there are, I must tell you one quick story about that. The book is made up of all of the letters that she wrote for the Quest magazine over the years, and she went in California some year and to make a speech, and this lady came up to her after her speech, and she had on a t-shirt and blue jeans that weren't in the best shape. But at any rate, she came up to Betty and pulled out of her hip pocket a piece of paper, and she said, Ms. Bland, I just want you to know that you have changed my life. And I would appreciate it if you would sign the paper I read that changed me. And she pulled out the paper, and it was one of Betty's uh, things that she'd written for the Quest magazine. And that's in this book and many others like that. But uh, she she did make a difference when she hates to give speeches, but when she gets down to it, she does a good job and has had a profound effect on people. And this book does too.
One of the things that I really love about your wife, Betty, is that she is very practical when she talks. She's very grounded when she talks, and she's very compassionate when she talks. She doesn't push her agenda, and she has a tremendous amount of wisdom, but she is so humble that you would never know uh,
That is the truth.
the depth of her spirituality. And I admire the way you admire her.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's been just so nice to speak with you today, David. I wonder if you've got any final words, anything that I forgot to ask or didn't cover.
No, I've enjoyed the interview. I really have. I had no, when you told me the other day that you wanted to do this, I wasn't at all sure uh, what this was going to be about, but this has been fun and I've really enjoyed it.
Well,
Really
thank
have.
you. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, David. I look forward to seeing you in the future. Certainly at say that David goes to the Research Triangle Study Group, Study Center right here that is generally at his house or online. So I look forward to seeing
Please,
you there.
please give your better half, Jim, my regards. I enjoyed so much our conversation early. I guess, was it Saturday morning? Yeah, it was Saturday morning. Sunday morning, guess
Sunday
what?
morning, yeah.
Yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed our early morning conversation over coffee. So that was great.
I'll tell you, theosophy creeps in our veins and our hearts and our minds, and it connects us up to unexpected experiences with many people. Again, thank you so much, David.
You're very welcome. Enjoyed it.